Hey, welcome to another episode of your Faith and Health Community. I'm your host, Pastor Jackie Jackson. And as always, on behalf of myself, as well as our producer, Anita Alexander, we want to thank you very much for taking out time from your busy day to join us. We have a lot of information that we want to get to. If you remember, if you were watching last week, you know this is part 2, where we're talking with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. But before we get to that, we're another week closer. In fact, this airing, we are in November. We are at open enrollment. Hopefully you are getting enrolled in health care if you do not have health care. If you're not insured, if something happens to you, you could bring a lot of cost on yourself or bring a lot of cost on your family. And don't be confused. One of the number one, I'm not saying it is the number one, but one of the main reasons for bankruptcy in the United States are medical bills. Because one night in the hospital, a trip to the emergency room, heaven forbid you stay in the hospital a week. One time I was in the hospital, I had heart failure. I was in the hospital for 5 days. I had a $80,000 medical bill, and I was not insured. That almost gave me a heart attack. So you need to be insured. Open enrollment is starting. Go to www.healthcare.gov. Look at the plans, see what works for you, what works financially for you. Listen, have some information. Know what doctors that you go to so that you can look for a plan that your doctor is in. Know what medications you are taking. If I get sick or I need to go to the hospital, I go to a hospital here in Cincinnati. It's Westchester Medical. It's UC Health. It's up in Westchester. I will drive there past the hospital. So if I'm going to go online, I'm going to be sure that that hospital is going to be covered in my plan. My cardiologist, I'm going to be sure my cardiologist, Dr. Joe Hackworth, by the way, is covered in my plan. So you've got to sit down, you've got to look at what you need. What are your medical issues? What do you need taken care of? What medications are you taking? Because don't be deceived. There are some plans, as crazy as it is, that you may not be able to get this medication on. So you want to do all that digging. I also want to mention this. If you're not going into the marketplace, but you need Medicaid, if you are single, making $16,248,000 a year or less, you're eligible for Medicaid. If you're a family of 4, making $44,500 or so, you are eligible for Medicaid. Get information. The Bible says my people perish for lack of knowledge or information. Get information. I'm going to stop. We have Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And I want to introduce the ladies with us. And if you were watching the last time, I forgot this. So I'm going to fix it this time so that you know. To my right is Michelle Mueller, who is the local lead here in Cincinnati. To her right is Jill Bowman, who is the local outreach lead. And to my left is Christine Woodworth, local legislation lead. Yeah, she's the queen of Woolworth stores.
Only.
Okay, so when we left off, we were talking about the Be Smart campaign. And just to go through it again, I'll read it just real quick. And so it's the Be Smart and the SMART. The S stands for Secure Guns in Your Homes and Vehicles. The M is for Model Responsible Behavior. The A is for Ask About Unsecured Guns in Other Homes. R, Recognize the Risk of Teen Suicide. And the T, Tell Your Peers to Be Smart. Be smart. That's the campaign. Let's talk about it. So, for people who are just tuning in this time, tell us about Be Smart. We don't have to go through that, but where it came from.
Well, our Moms Demand Action is an organization. We launched our gun safety program called Be Smart in 2015. Our program is actually sanctioned by the National PTA Association. So when we launched it, the goal was, and the purpose was, in order for us to be able to take action to promote responsible gun ownership and reduce child gun deaths. And we're talking about the unintentional child shootings that take place every day because a child can access an unattended loaded gun and come up with this lethal combination of unsecured guns plus a child. And we have these tragic deaths that occur every day. And in fact, we lose about 300 children a year to unintentional gun shootings. And this is one death that we felt as responsible adults. We put safety in the hands of adults, that this is one death that we could prevent and keep from happening, is the unintentional shootings that occur and the unintentional injuries that occur with children, and we're talking about age 17 and under.
Okay. And I don't want to put you on the spot, and you may or may not know, but do you have an idea at least of the statistics of the number of people who are shot? I don't mean they're shot by the bank robber or the mugger in the street. I mean that are shot in their homes because there was not good sense.
You're talking about adult unintentional shootings or just gun violence? Which one are we talking? Different categories here. Usually when we look at the total number of deaths every day, that's 93 Americans lose their lives through gun shooting. Twice that many a day are injured. And when we look at that number, that takes in gun violence, suicide, and unintentional deaths. So out of the 93, 7 children are in that 93. And when you look at the 7, that too breaks down to gun violence, suicide, and unintentional. So when we look at just, again, children on a daily basis or a yearly basis, we lose 1,300 children to gun violence, but we have many more injured. In fact, Jill worked in the emergency room, and she can tell you how many children came through there every day or every year. But when we looked at the statistics through the American Pediatrics Association, again, that number of 1,300 children that die, that again is broken down to about 500 by gun suicide and by suicide, and then about another 300 unintentional, and about 500 to gun violence. But so this program really just was based on child statistics 17 and under.
But isn't it all violence? I mean, whether it's suicide, whether it's intentional, unintentional, at the end of the day.
I guess you're looking at, you're
It's
right. It's all gun violence.
It's all gun violence.
It is all gun violence. It's just
They have different solutions.
The different methods. Was this,
like
preventable? You said, a preventable, meaning the unintentional, where the gun was unlocked and loaded. It was not secured. And like you said, we look at gun violence. Again, they're talking about in violent situations where arguments or fights take place. And then you look at, of course, the other, again, looking at statistics with children, the 500 that they attribute to suicide. Too, I think the whole gun violence situation, we look at it as, not all of it is preventable. We feel it's, a responsibility to try and decrease it. I think the entire nation feels that way, to try and reduce it just any way possible. And this program, of course, addresses those unintentional child shootings. But the numbers are astounding every day.
That is a lot. So we're talking statistics. I don't necessarily know if they go hand in hand, but for some reason on this talk of statistics, it makes me want to know, what are the moms doing, right? You've got Be Smart, which is great. And you know the statistics, which is good. It's great that you know, but what actions is the mom's organization taking or being proactive? What are you doing that's proactive?
Well, one of our major goals as moms is to encourage common sense gun legislation. So towards that end, we work with legislatures. We work with state, local, federal legislatures, explaining and being an information source to them about various gun bills that may come up before them. giving them research. Our organization has a very, we're evidence-based. We have a very robust research arm that can provide legislators with information about the bills that they may consider. So we lobby. We get in contact with our legislators through phones. We have days where we send 25 moms in red shirts up to Columbus to talk to legislators there if there are bills being considered. We write postcards to our state, our federal senators and legislators. So we do a lot trying to just encourage common sense gun laws.
And to tag on to that, our number one mission as an organization, it's our number one goal, is to implement comprehensive background checks and close the loopholes in the gun shows, online sales of guns, and private sales. We know through research that that's the single most effective measure you can take, is to implement comprehensive background checks to decrease the guns of getting into the hands of people with dangerous history, so that should not have a gun. So it doesn't, cure all of that situation. It's not going to catch every prohibited buyer, but we also know since the implementation of the Brady Bill and background checks in the 80s, they've already prevented close to 4 million prohibited buyers from getting a gun. So we want to make it just a little more difficult in all the different avenues that are available to us to buy a gun. In online sales and private sales, I think online sales might account for 20% of all gun sales. They didn't have online sales years ago when the Brady Bill was implemented. So the loophole here is addressing the unlicensed gun dealers at gun shows and online. They are not required by law to implement background checks. And again, that being the measure that's most effective to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous individuals. And like Christy said, we lobby for background checks and closing loopholes, but any gun initiative that will advocate or decrease gun violence in our communities. We address domestic violence bills and closing loopholes there that address their dating partners and stalkers, not just laws that are applicable.
And a lot of bringing bringing awareness,
right,
and making sure that people understand.
Yes.
I mean, because we live in a country where owning a gun is legal if you go through the legal channels of having a gun. And I mean, I personally have no issue with the person owning a gun if it's legal, if it's they're in that place. And there are a few people that I know personally that have that legally own a gun that scares the mess out of me. The fact that they own a gun. I mean, they're not coming at me or anything. It's just the fact, like, they gave you a gun license, really? But that's the thing, and this is the country that we live in. I want to mention something. We were talking, and I think Jill brought this up, and I hadn't seen this, where they talked about the cost for the Las Vegas shooting and what that cost was, which I had no idea. Nothing of this number I'm getting ready to read. I just want to read this real fast that I pulled up, and let me just tell you, which I meant to do the first time, where I'm reading it from, so that it's not just, this isn't me. I'm quoting Newsweek.com. And what they said was, for the cost of the mass shooting in Las Vegas on the Sunday night that it occurred, the deadliest such incident in modern U.S. history, will be astronomical. I quote here, based on what we currently know, at least 58 killed. Well, I'm sorry. Let me get past that, because we now know the number that was dead, that was killed and injured. But it's saying the shooting will cost at least $600 million. In other words, the cost for everything. It says that Ted Miller, a researcher with the Pacific Institute for Research and Evaluation, tells Newsweek, Miller estimates the average cost per fatal firearm assault for this tragedy will be around $7.8 million, which accounts for factors such as medical care, mental health care, work loss, emergency transport, police work, employer costs, and quality of life. saying that basically it's going to cost, or this is the equivalent to $2 per gun in the U.S., $2 per American, or $6 per household with guns, Miller notes. That is a lot of money that needs to be spent, but for everything that it said, health care, mental health, all of these things, is understandable. So we're not going to get, into a deep discussion, obviously, on the law, but your Be Smart is about the individual, because everybody can't go to the Capitol, and everyone's not going to talk to legislators, and everyone's not going to go to the congressman or anything, but everyone can be smart in their handling of firearms. And that's what moms want. You just want people to be smart. So let's talk a little bit more. There's an outreach component, and Jill, I know that you're the outreach lead here in Cincinnati. So what is that outreach consisting of?
Outreach is going into the community and talking about our message. We understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and that it's going to take a long time to have some of these goals realized. We want to go, the thing that I'm most excited about is going into the inner city, showing the youth that there are adults that care about them and their future, and we are trying to have them model good behavior so that they can grow up and they can realize their dreams.
And that's awesome, because going into bringing moms into the inner city is working with parents and organizations that are in the inner city. And so it's great that you all are being able to say, hey, here's some more information with what you're doing to try to keep your community safe and to keep your children safe. And so that is an awesome thing that you are, what's the word I'm looking for?
We're collaborating.
Collaborating, yes.
It's mostly,
Yeah.
I'm there to learn what I can do to make things better.
Yeah, and we want to support the community in any way that we can. Just like Jill said, we were on what was called the listening tour, right? Every mom does this across the nation with their different groups, and that's how they partner eventually with different organizations. And like Jill said, we needed to see, what are your needs and what do you need us to do? In fact, I can remember the day that we met you for the first time, and you had, just very one simple ask, and it just blossomed from there. And you just said, join us in our peace marches, or come to some of our vigils. We lose so many in our community, and we absolutely did that, and will continue to do that. And moms are doing that across the nation, and helping any way that they can. And like you said, a big part of on our end is to help educate what's going on, keep people aware, not just of statistics, but gun violence. I mean, these are people, these are lives that we're losing every day, and it's just a scourge that's taken place across America. And whatever we can do, if it is our Be Smart program, these 5 simple steps are behavioral steps to just be a little more responsible. Therefore, in turn, the end product is saving a life, and that's our goal. In everything we do.
It helps too with, there's so many, I didn't realize how many boots on the ground there were trying to make our communities safer. And every event I go to, I see more people that are involved. And you see the moms in the lime green shirts out in our streets. You see, the community advocates out on the street corners. You see the police interacting with the youth. You see, the faith community out there. And it's not just one person or one group. It takes a village.
It takes a village.
It does.
And that's good. You're right.
And I remember the mayor's office said that to us when we talked to the mayor, about our gun violence program in general and our organization. And he said, you need to meet all the other advocates that want the same thing you want. and that's decrease gun violence. And that's what opened up to us through you and through the community advocates.
Well,
and
because
all
we're
the
so much
different-
more powerful
Yes.
together as a
Right.
group.
It's hard to, you can ignore individual groups. You can lump them into whatever category or box you want. But when those individual groups join hand and are marching to the same beat, it becomes hard to ignore. I want to mention, I know that you have a initiative or campaign with mayors across the United States.
We do. Mayors Against Illegal Guns. That is another branch. We have Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We have Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and that was actually started in 2006. We were born in 2012, and we're umbrellaed under Everytown for Gun Safety. But the Mayors Against Illegal Guns actually addresses the illegal trafficking of guns across state borders. And they talk about the different gun dealers and the straw purchasers. They address that piece of the gun violence world. And in fact, just recently, so moms go out across the nation, and we did this in Cincinnati, and brought our organization and information about Mayors Against Illegal Guns to our mayor, Mayor John Cranley, and he just recently signed on to be a member of Mayors Against Illegal Guns. And so we have that platform. So we have the city's platform of gun violence prevention and all the work they're doing. All the other gun violence organization, Mothers Against Gun Violence, our group, Moms Demand Action, community advocates. So together, again, we hope all of our programs together and working for the same goal reduces gun violence.
And I really think it is, because I'm hearing, I'm one of the advocates, the community outreach advocates, and I'm hearing the talk, and the organizations are being recognized. You guys came in less than a year ago, and you've come in like thunder. And I think the beautiful thing about it is you say what you mean what you say, and you come out and you do the work, and you love on people, and you spread the information, and that's important. I want to mention a component about the Be Smart program is we really kind of want to get that into churches, into not just into faith organizations, whether it's the mosque, whether it's a temple, whether it's a church. You want to get it out, because we all know that faith leaders are trusted sources. And if we can get a conversation going over the pulpit, if we can get a conversation within the churches, within the synagogues, and the temples, in the mosque, talking about this, because this is something that I said earlier on the other show, that it affects everybody. Now how it affects may be different. How it may affect, just to use in Indian Hill versus maybe in over the Rhine, may have a little bit difference to it. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about lives lost, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter your skin color. It does not matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're straight or gay. It doesn't matter. It affects everyone. And so we need to get this information. You want to make sure you can get it out. You want to make sure you can get it in front of as many people as possible. And Sunday morning or Saturday, depending on how worship is a great place to get it. And I know we've talked before about trying to get faith leaders, maybe get some type of event where faith leaders come in and get a real good understanding, maybe I don't know how long, maybe a day, maybe a half a day, maybe 2 hours, or maybe a period of a weekend where you can give them this information so that they have it, they're more informed, train them to have faith leaders to have this conversation, or be willing to reach out to moms and say, hey, can we get someone to come in and do a session and train the faith? I think that's what it needs to be, train the faith leaders on gun sense. Because as a pastor, one thing I know, I've done my share of funerals because of gun violence, and quite a few in my own family. So we need to talk about that just a little bit. on getting the faith leaders involved. And I'm involved. And if you're a faith leader and you know me, then you have my phone number. You should call me and let's strike up a conversation. You can look at your caller ID, because I'm going to be calling you and striking up the conversation. And we need to look at how we get this into the faith community and talk about it, because one way or another, it's going to affect us. So we only have a few minutes left, and I want to stop talking because I'm also a preacher, so that means I can talk and talk and talk. What do you, anything that either one of you ladies feel you need to say that we haven't discussed?
One thing I wanted to mention is that people say this isn't going to stop every gun death. Of course it's not. We're not against guns. We just want responsible behavior with guns. It's like the smoking campaign. Back in the day, people said, you're not going to take my cigarettes away from me, blah, blah, blah. Look now at the decrease in smoking and how that has benefited the public health cost, because people don't smoke as much. Same thing with, we're modeled on Mothers Against Drunk Driving and how that has been decreased. There's the designated driver. There's more safety features in cars, so there are less fatalities with motor vehicle crashes. You just put little things together over the long haul and you can accomplish your goal. We can reduce gun violence and gun deaths.
And I think the thing that I would like to add is that we need everybody's hands and feet in this effort. And what I'd like everyone to do who would like to join us is to text JOIN to 64433 and come be a mom. Whether you're a mom or a dad or an uncle or a brother, we need your hands, we need your voice, and we need you to help us stop this epidemic.
And I think the thing that I'd like to add, based on your conversation of moms taking this Be Smart program to the community and to the faith community, is that Moms offers once a month a teleconference call, 1 hour, and this is an introduction to our Be Smart program and all the materials that we use when we go out and present. So anybody can become a trained presenter through this 1 hour teleconference. And our next one is November 29th. It's at 8:30 p.m. And they can email through our chapter email, ohio@momschapterleaders.org, and sign up if they would like to learn a little more about that, hear a little more detail about the program, and it's a 1 hour teleconference.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you ladies for coming out. I want to thank you for sharing this information. And listen, again, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of information. You've gotten some very good information today. And I hope that you use it. I hope that you research. I hope that you go to the Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America's site. Read more. Reach out. Text to
64433.
64433. Text to that. Get information. Listen, we've got a battle. And you may go, well, what does this have to do with health and faith? Well, bullets are bad for your health. In fact, they can just destroy your health. And we need every person in the faith community to join faith with us, that this mission, that this campaign can reach everybody possible, and that lives can be saved. That's it. Again, I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson. I want to thank you for tuning into your faith and health community. On behalf of myself and our producer, Anita Alexander, we want to say, stay faithful, get insured in healthcare, and stay healthy. God bless you.